There is a moment in every believer's journey when you realize something simple but life-changing. Purpose doesn't move at your speed. Purpose moves at God's speed. And that gap between your timing and His timing, that's where trust is born. Trust is the bridge between calling and fulfillment. Trust is what carries you when courage runs low. Trust is what steadies you when surrender feels scary. Trust is what keeps you moving when the path is unclear. And trust is not passive. Trust is not weak. Trust is not sitting still and hoping for the best. Trust is active. Trust is spiritual strength. Trust is choosing God's way when your way feels faster. Trust is choosing patience when your emotions want to rush. Trust is choosing integrity when shortcuts look tempting. Trust is choosing compassion when frustrations rise. Trust is choosing self-control when fear tries to take over. Trust is a quiet confidence that says, God, I don't see it yet, but I know you're working. Today we're going to talk about the kind of trust that doesn't just help you survive the journey. It shapes your purpose. It matures your faith. And it deepens your character. It aligns your heart with God's timing. I want to thank you for joining me here on Faith Between the Lines, and I'm Scott. Every purpose begins with a calling, a whisper, a nudge, a sense that God is pulling you towards something bigger. But between the calling and the fulfillment, there is a bridge, and that bridge is trust. Trust is what carries you through the seasons where nothing seems to be happening. Trust is what keeps you steady when the promise feels distant. Trust is what holds you together when the process feels slow. Purpose is not built in a straight line. It's built in the waiting. It's built in the stretching. It's built in the moments where you have to choose faith over fear. Trust teaches you humility because you learn to rely on God's strength, not your own. Trust teaches you compassion because you understand what it feels like to wait. And you learn to walk gently with others who are waiting too. Trust teaches you integrity because you stop chasing shortcuts and start choosing obedience. Trust is the bridge, and every step across it shapes who you are becoming. One of the hardest parts of purpose is this. God really shows you the whole path. He shows you the next step, and then the next, and then the next, and that requires trust. Trust when you don't have the answers. Trust when the timing doesn't make sense, and trust when the door you wanted didn't open. Trust when the door you didn't want did open. Trust is choosing to walk even when you can't see the destination. Trust is choosing to believe even when you don't feel spiritual. Trust is choosing to stay faithful even when you feel forgotten. And here's the truth. God doesn't hide the path to frustrate you. He hides it to protect you. He hides it to grow you. He hides it so you will learn to walk by faith, not by sight. When the path is unclear, your charter becomes clear. Your faith becomes clear. Your purpose becomes clear. Because trust is not built in certainty. It's built in mystery. You know, there isn't any of us that don't have timelines or timetables. We all have expectations. We all have ideas about when things should happen. But God's timing is different. It's wiser. It's safer. It's more strategic. It's more loving. And trust grows when you release your timeline and embrace His. Releasing your timeline takes humility because you admit you don't know the best moment. It takes forgiveness because you stop blaming yourself for delays. And that wasn't your fault. It takes compassion because you stop judging your progress and start honoring your growth. It takes self-control because you stop rushing ahead and start resting in God's pace. When you release your timeline, you stop living in frustration and you start living in freedom. Because trust is not about waiting for the right moment. It's about believing God is present and He's there for you. As you begin to lean in and trust God more, trust turns fear into movement. Fear freezes you. Fear paralyzes you. Fear tells you to stay where it's safe. But trust turns fear into movement. Trust gives you a courage to take the next step. Trust gives you the strength to try again. Trust gives you the confidence to walk into the unknown. Trust doesn't remove fear, it overrides it. Trust says, I feel afraid, but I'm moving anyway. Trust teaches you integrity because you act from faith, not emotion. Trust teaches you compassion because you understand how hard it is to move forward when fear is loud. Trust teaches you humility because you realize courage doesn't come from you. It comes from God. Every time you move forward in trust, your purpose grows stronger, your faith grows deeper, your spirit grows steadier, and your trust is the engine of all the purpose. As a reflection of this episode, I wrote a poem for it called The Step I Cannot See. I wanted God to show the path, to lay it out for me. But all He gave was one small step, the step I couldn't see. I feared the dark, I feared the weight, I feared what lay ahead. But trust became my steady light, and faith became my bread. Now every step is guided, though the road is still unknown. For trusting God has taught my heart, I never walk alone. There is a peace that only comes from trust. A peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. A peace that doesn't depend on clarity. A peace that doesn't depend on control. It's the peace of knowing God is working even when you can't see it. It's the peace of knowing God is guiding you even when you don't feel it. It's the peace of knowing God is protecting you even when you don't understand it. Trust produces peace. Peace produces clarity. Clarity produces purpose. And when you trust God fully, you stop striving, you stop forcing, you stop fearing. You begin to walk with compassion because you're no longer living in panic. You begin to walk with humility because you know God is the one carrying you. You begin to walk with integrity because you know are no longer tempted by the shortcuts. You begin to walk with self-control because your spirit is anchored. This is the peace that shapes purpose. This is the peace that strengthens your soul. This is the peace that comes from trust. My closing blessing for the show is today, may humility steady your heart. May forgiveness free your spirit. May integrity anchor your choices. May self-control protect your purpose. And may the God who leads you one step at a time fill your life with courage, clarity, and an unmistakable trust. I want to thank you for joining me here on Faith Between the Lines, and I hope I met you right where you are. You being here in this space matters. Your questions and comments are always welcome and can be left on YouTube or on Buzzsprout. Before I close, I want to take a moment to honor the families and the men and the women of our military. Those who serve, those who have served, and those who stand behind them with quiet strength. Your sacrifice, your courage, and your commitment to this great country do not go unnoticed. May God bless you, protect you, and surround your families with peace and gratitude from all of us. And always remember, you are never walking alone. We'll see you here on the next episode.